returning, jump in the river of praise. 'Cause I am not who I once was. My whole life has been changed. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. Oh, he took my burdens, he took my guilt, and he carried the hurting of Calvary's hill. He's calling the lost to the foot of the cross, where all the broken are healed. When he died my death to give me his breath, oh, now my future is sealed. 'Cause I am not who I once was. My whole life has been changed. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. Y'all think about this. And now I live in resurrection power. 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 'Cause I am not who I once was. My whole life has been changed. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. 'Cause I am not who I once was. My whole life has been changed. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. I met the forgiver, and now this sinner will never be the same. Church, how are we singing this morning? There is a river of gladness that pours from Emmanuel's veins. The sinner was plunged beneath the flood and got saved. And since then I walk in forgiveness. All of my guilt was erased. The chains of the past are broken at last. I got saved. Oh, I got saved. I'm undone by the mercy of Jesus. I'm undone by the goodness of the Lord. I'm restored and made right. He got a hold of my life. I got Jesus. How could I want more? I received nothing but goodness. I tasted and tasted your grace. And I was so lost till I fell at the cross and got saved. Oh, I got saved. I'm undone by the mercy of Jesus. I'm undone by the goodness of the Lord. I'm restored and made right. He got a hold of my life. I got Jesus.
everybody in this room, you're singing because of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. We're singing to worship Him, to worship God this morning, so let's do that.
Go ahead and have a seat. Go ahead and have a seat. John chapter 4. John chapter 4. This is the scene of the woman at the well. Are you familiar? Are you familiar? All right, you're familiar. All right, you're familiar. We've talked about this before. But in John chapter 4, and we'll read verse 1 down to verse 29. There's a lot of verses, a lot of verses, a lot of details, and there's a lot of details, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it today and maybe learn something a little different. Starting in verse 1, it says, when therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus The Pharisee had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples. He left for Judea and departed again into Galilee. So Jesus was not wanting to make a scene right now, so he just thought he would exit out quietly. He's making an exit. He's going to Galilee. He's going to the Galilee. Verse 4, and he must needs go Samaria. This is an important verse. So circle it, highlight it, whatever you want to do. But this is an important verse. He must needs go through Samaria. Verse 5, then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus was there. Being wearied with his journey. Aren't you glad he can relate to our tiredness? Sometimes he can go through stuff, and every now and then he just gets a little tired and he just sits down. I'm glad the Scripture puts these kind of details in there. Let us know that he can relate to our humanity. It says that he was wearied from his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour, which was about noon, middle of the day. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, Can you imagine the very first? He didn't say, hey, my name is Jesus, what is your name? He didn't introduce himself for nothing. This woman shows up and says, give me to drink. I don't know. Thought it was interesting. All right. Verse 8. All right. For his disciples were gone away into the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it thou, being a Jew, drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. That's an important phrase right there. The Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Verse 10. Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it was that saith to thee, Thou wouldst have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. The woman saith unto her, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with. Where is your bucket? And the well is deep. Then hast thou living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. Jesus saith unto her, husband and come hither. Woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands. He whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidest thou truly. Woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh, neither in this mountain nor at Jerusalem worship. You worship, you know not what. We know what we worship. For salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship Him. God is a spirit. They that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah is Christ. When He is come, He will tell us all things. Jesus saith unto her, I that speak unto thee, what's He say? Surprise! He's here. Verse 27. And upon this came his disciples and marveled that he talked with the woman. Yet no man said, What seekest thou with her? Why talkest thou with her? The woman then left her water pot, went her way into the city, and said to the man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? I love this because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of details, and a lot of details, and a lot of importance to this city, to this well, and to this situation. And Lord willing, I hope us unpack some of this and give us some of this meaning and depth to what's going on. But what I have realized as a case study of humanity is we're the kind of people who don't like conflict, we don't like uncomfortable situations, we don't like awkwardness. Some of you are so timid and so introverted that if you go out to eat and you order a steak and instead of French fries you want mashed potatoes, and the waitress comes to your table and you have a steak and French fries, knowing good and well you said you wanted mashed potatoes. You just look at it and say, thank you. Like you won't even say take it back. You're just so afraid of confrontation, so afraid of being uncomfortable, so afraid of might be a little conflicting. I don't want to engage in this. We are the kind of people that avoid uncomfortable situations. Would you agree? I think in majority we are the kind of people that we avoid. See, let me tell you a little bit about Samaria. Samaria was a place that the Jewish people had tried to avoid their entire life. They would not try to go through Samaria. If you look at a map, Samaria is in the middle from Judea to Galilee. Samaria is right in the middle. Samaria is right in the middle. And the quickest route, this is something else. We'll get to there. The quickest route to get to Samaria from Judea is to go straight through Samaria. Now that's about a 70-mile journey. That's a 3-day journey. That's a 3-day journey if you used to walk it. But the Jews had such a prejudice against the Samaritan people that they would go around Samaria, which would add to their total. They would go 130 miles just so they didn't have to go through Samaria. That's how much prejudice that they had against these people. This is how much they tried to avoid. Now this picture he flashed up here on the wall. This is kind of my own understanding of Samaria. Growing up in South Alabama, I grew up in a city called Fairview, and I lived in a community called Hollinger's Island. Now, in our little community, from one road to the other, there was a cut-through road. There was a cut-through road called San Marino. You can throw that picture back up there. San Marino is the quickest way. See that red line? You'll see that red line? That's San Marino. That's San Marino. Blue line? See that blue line? It goes all the way down there to the bottom. That's where I live. Right there. So if you're coming down where that yellow line is, you can cut through and come on down to my house. But sometimes you'd go around the long way. Because San Marino was sketchy. Sketchy people lived on San Marino. If you go down San Marino, they would cut you. They were a little gangster down San Marino. They didn't do always do right. Some always do right. Some go around San Marino instead of San Marino. San Marino was the quickest route. We avoided San Marino. And it was for good reason. I remember when I was in high school, I had an old beat-up 1986. The passenger side door was so bent in, you couldn't even use the door. I inherited that way. I didn't do it. And it was just beat up pieces, but it got me from point A to point B. And I remember one day when I was going to cut down San Marino. And so I started driving down San Marino. And the old Rook boys were out in the middle of the road. Now you don't know they were Rook boys. The Rook boys were never up to anything good. The Rook boys, they were not going to come to your door and try to sell you Girl Scout cookies. They were not that kind of people. And the oldest Rook boy was trying to make me stop. And I saw the other road, and I saw the other Rook boys standing on the side. I said, this don't look good. And I already got dents in my car. So I just floored it and hit him. Here's the thing. He was okay. I watched him. He was okay. I watched him. He got up. He was fine. But I just punched it and went. I got home and I didn't go down San Marino much more. But I know what it's like to go through places you tried to avoid. Now here's the truth about following Jesus. Because Jesus had 12 disciples following him. What ethnicity were these 12 men? Jewish people. And in verse 4, he says he must go through Samaria. So here's the truth about following Jesus. When you follow Jesus, he will bring you through situations that you've been trying to avoid your whole life. And so they try to avoid Samaria, and these people their whole life, and Jesus says, Jesus says, I have to go through Samaria. Let's go. And so they send him Jesus. Gets there, and he sends Jesus disciples into town. He says, I need you to get me a sandwich. I'm hungry. Go get me something to eat. Now, not only are they going through a town they tried to avoid, now they have to go talk to people they've been trying to avoid their whole life. And they come back from this errand, and they find Jesus alone, but not just a woman, a Samaritan woman, not just a Samaritan woman, but a Samaritan woman with a promiscuous reputation. And this was very unconventional to be a Jewish person to be sitting alone with a woman. Matter of fact, the rabbis teach today that if you're going to be alone with a woman, it must be your wife, must be your daughter, or your sister. But what I love about Jesus is he's not much for convention and social norms and traditions. He likes to flip those things upside down. He'll obey the laws and the rules, but he don't care much for tradition. So here he is sitting alone with this woman, talking to her, and he's having this conversation with her that is so deep and so personal, and I think would benefit us today. So what I want to do is I want to go deeper into this conversation, if you allow me. And I want to see what he's talking about to this woman. And so number one, if you're taking notes. What we see is that Jesus has a way of making things have meaning. So he enhances the well. Let me tell you a little history about this location. He's in a city called Shechem. In John chapter 4, it's called Sychar. But Shechem and Sychar are the same place. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use that interchangeably. Just know I'm talking about the same place. Shechem and Sychar is the same location. And Shechem has a rich history in Israel. It is in this place where Abraham built an altar to the Lord. It is here where Abraham and Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Isaac and Rebekah would eventually have a child. Two children, twins. Jacob known as the trickster. Esau known as the red hairy one. Read your Bible, it's there. Read your Bible, it's there. Imagine giving birth to a red hairy child. You love him anyways. You love him anyways. Jacob being the trickster that he was, he scammed his brother Esau out of his inheritance. And he took off and started moving and lived with the people of the east. There he fell in love with a woman named Rachel. Love at first sight. Love at first sight. So he talked to Rachel's dad. He says, I want to marry your daughter. Work for me for 7 years. Work for me for 7 years. He worked for 7 years. He worked for 7 years. And the trickster got tricked. At the wedding day, after everything was said and done, he realized he married the wrong daughter. He had married Leah. Now he's upset about this. Goes back to the dad and says, you tricked me. He says, well, you want the other one. He says, well, you want the other one. So he works another 7 years. So he works another 7 years. Now he has Rachel. Now Rachel and Jacob, they have a boy named Joseph. And Joseph has a dream. And in his dream, all his brothers are going to bow down to him. He's going to be the greatest of all the brothers. Now, how do you think the brothers like that? They didn't like it very much. They didn't like it very much. So they take him to the lands of Shechem. And they throw him into a pit. And they sell him into slavery. This is where Joseph's destiny began. It is in Shechem. It is in Shechem. I got a picture of this. I have a picture of these two mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. Now, right in the middle of these two mountains is the city of Shechem. And so this is an amazing place. On one mountain, this is where Moses commanded the people. He split the tribes up. Half the tribe on Mount Gerizim, half the Mount Ebal. On Mount Gerizim, he says, I want you to talk about the promises of God. When you follow God, when you follow God and obey God, the promised land for you. Over here on Mount Ebal, he says, I want y'all to recite the curses of God. When you disobey God, when you don't do right, God's going to do right. This is what God's going to do for you. And this was a way that God was commanding the people before they go into the promised land, how they were going to conduct themselves. This happened in Shechem. And then towards the end of his life, Joshua is now the military leader of Israel. Towards the end of his life, he calls all the people of Israel together. And he gives them his final address and his final words about what he's about to do before he leaves out. Joshua and the people of Israel go and conquer the promised land. After they conquer the promised land, they take Joseph's bones. His bones are buried in Egypt. So they're going to retrieve the bones of Joseph, bring them back to Shechem, and there's a tomb to this day with Joseph's bones there in Shechem. And then all of this comes up to a point in John chapter 4, where Jesus happened to be in Shechem, talking to a Samaritan woman. All of this history behind him. All of the promises and covenants of Israel, all the things that took place before this moment is all behind him. And it's like an arrow pointing at Jesus. I don't know if you understand this, but when you read the Old Testament, it's just foreshadowing the coming of Christ. And so everything the Old Testament was talking about, now here's Jesus at this well, in this holy land, in this rich history of a location. And here's what Jesus can do. Only Jesus can do it. He's able, because he's able. If you read the Old Testament, Israel's history was not always rainbows and unicorns. They were idol worshippers. They were people who forsook God. There were other nationalities. And they had a very tragic history. But what Jesus can do is he can wrap his arms around the holy at the same time. And what Jesus can do is he can wrap his arms around the garbage and the good at the same time. And I love it because that means he can do it for you too. He can come to your life and he can wrap around everything that's bad and everything that's bad, and he can give it purpose. And so here's this arrow pointing at Jesus in the middle of Jesus, in the middle of Shechem. And this is a huge lesson for us because all of history is pointing to this moment that he's having a conversation with this woman. He's saying, "Can you give me something to drink?" And she says, "You don't even have anything to drink with. Are you even greater than our father? She has no idea who she's talking to. This is the walking word. This is God in the flesh. All of her father Jacob was preparing the way for this man right here named Jesus. Abraham, the promise that was given to him through you, blessed. Guess what? He blessed. That's what he is all nations right there. All nations right there. Jesus is the culmination, and the tangible evidence of all the prophecy of the Old Testament. And she's talking to him right now, and she don't even know it. In this historical setting, she don't even know. And Jesus is able to take a conversation about a well and make it something bigger. She says, "Give me the." He said, "Give me something to drink." And then give me something to drink. And then you don't have anything to drink with. You don't have anything to drink with. If you would have asked me, I would have gave you living water. Now let me help you understand what this is. Jesus has a way of taking conversations from the lower, lesser, and lighter to the heavier, higher, and holier. Think about it when he goes to call his disciples. He sees them disciples. He sees them fishing. I see that you're a fisherman. How about you follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. He goes from the lesser, lighter, and lower to the heavier, higher, and holier. This is what Jesus does. This is what Jesus does constantly. He's able to take a normal conversation, find a way to segue into a gospel conversation. Jesus was the model for this. We can look at his conversations time and time again and see how he's able to take a normal conversation. He's just talking about water. Now all of a sudden he's talking about salvation. I think about the conversation I had with a young man the other day at the Coleman Aquatic Center. I get a little weird when the sauna, because it's a small little closet. It's a small little closet that's about 180 degrees. You're just in there sweating to death. And another guy walks in, shirtless in a sauna. I'm going to break the ice. I'm not going to break the ice. Stare at him. So I engage him, and I notice he has tattoos on him. I say, "Man, I like your tattoos." On his arm, it was Star Wars. Tell me about that one. He said, He said, it's got death lightsabers. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I said, "What about the other one?" He explained the other one. He explained the other one. And on his back, he had a cross. I said, "What does that one mean?" He said, "That's a Celtic cross." He said, "That's a Celtic cross. I'm from Irish descent." Cool. I said, "Cool." And some of y'all don't know this, but I got tattoos. Don't get up and walk out. Don't get up and walk out. Okay. We'll be okay. We'll be okay, Fairview. We'll be okay, Fairview. We'll be all right. And I have one on the back of my leg. It's called the Noon symbol. About 10, 11 years ago, Israel was being persecuted by ISIS. People from ISIS would go and spray paint this symbol and all the businesses and homes of the people that lived there. It was called the Noon symbol. It was called the Noon symbol. It's the Arabic letter they would call the Christians Nazarenes. So anywhere there was a Christian community or Christian community or Christian person, they would spray paint the symbol on the building. And so kind of in my own way, in the act of solidarity with my Christian brothers and sisters over in the Middle East, symbol on my body. That symbol on my body. And I began to share that with this young man. And then I said, "Do you have a moment to tell you my story?" I'm able to engage this guy in the sauna about my story. Now we went from the lower, lesser, lighter to the heavier, higher, and it started about a tattoo. And this is what Jesus does. He's able to take a conversation and transition it into something and give it meaning. So he enhances the well, and secondly, he engages the woman. Now he's having a conversation with this woman. She says, "You don't even have a bucket." She has no idea who she's talking to. In John chapter 1, verse 3, it says, "All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made." You know what he's saying? The very molecules that make up the water, Jesus spoke it into existence. The very clay and the dirt that made that well, Jesus put it into existence. And she's saying, "You don't have a bucket." He's saying, "I made the water." You don't even know who you're talking to. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12, Isaiah says, "Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out the heaven with a span, and comprehended the measure, and weighed the mountains, and weighed the hills in the balance, and the hills in the balance." You know what Isaiah is saying? He says, "Our God is so big, He can fit all the waters of the world in the hollow of His hand. He can stretch out His arms from one side of the universe to the other side. Our God is big and powerful." And she's saying, "You don't have a bucket." But you know what? Jesus don't get offended. He don't get disturbed by this. And he just kindly responds. He says, "Well, if you come to this well to drink, you will come again." And in verse 14, we find the heart of the passage. It says, "But whosoever drinketh of the water." Now, I want y'all to underline this. He says, "Whoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him." I shall give him. This water is not earned. This gift is not something you can muster up in yourself. You can't be good enough to receive this. Jesus says, "I shall give." This is something important that we need to notice. "I shall give him the water that I shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life." The imagery here is that it never runs out. It is constantly overflowing. It is constantly bubbling. It is a spring of everlasting life. He's talking about eternity here. He's talking about salvation here. He says, "If you partake of the water that I'll give of the water that I'll give you, you will never go thirsty. Your soul would never be thirsty again. It would always be satisfied. Jesus likes to give in abundance. I don't know if you picked that up. I don't know if you picked that up. But he loves to give in abundance. But he loves to give in abundance. I think about Jesus. He's talking to Peter. He's talking to Peter. He says, Peter, did you catch any fish? He says, no, we didn't catch anything. He says, let's go again. He says, let's go out again. They drop the nets off on the other side. Now, it would have been enough for Jesus to allow the net to get a little full. That would have proved this point. That would have proved this point. But instead, what happens? But instead, what happens? So full, about six to boat. Peter's having to boat. The other boat to come and help the other boat, and they're able to wrestle this net up to the top and get it to the top and get it to the shore. It wasn't enough that Jesus filled it a little bit. He filled it a little bit. He filled it to the brim. Jesus likes to give in abundance. I think about Jesus on a hillside with 5,000 men. Now, 5,000 men. Now, women and children, there's probably 10 to 12,000 people on this hillside. He takes a little boy's lunch, breaks it and blesses it, and distribute it. The Bible tells us that it wasn't enough, that it wasn't enough, that everybody has a little bit. Everybody has a little bit. It says they ate until they were full. And then after that, they go and collect the leftovers. 12 baskets of leftovers. Jesus likes to give abundance. I think about the demon-possessed man is living amongst the tombs. The people are scared to death of him. They're chaining him up, and he keeps breaking the chains. He's naked, and he's crazy. Jesus approaches this demon-possessed man and says, Demon, what is your name? For we are legion. Scholars believe this man may have possessing him. It's not enough that Jesus made him a little bit. By the time Jesus was done with him, he was right mind, sitting at the fire, ready to join the missionary team. Jesus says, "Hey, you can't go with me. You can't go with me. I need you to go back home. Tell your friends and family what I've done for you." Jesus loves to give in abundance. And he's telling this woman, if you would just ask of me, would I be willing to give for you? It would. Jesus has a way of loving us in abundance. And so in verse 15, the woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water. That I thirst not. Neither come hither to draw. She's like, I don't want to make this journey. I don't want to make this that water you're talking about. This is what he wanted, isn't it? This is what he wanted. She is laying her yes on the table. She's saying, what you offer, I want that. Yes, this is the time in church. This is the time in church. Jalen to come up here and sing. And he would start singing. And he would start singing, no matter whatever song it is. All right. And then he would begin to sing. And all of a sudden we sing. And all of a sudden ladies, men for ladies, men for men up here, altar workers. And then Miss Cindy Reese would take this lady by the hand, take this lady by the hand and fill out a little form, and then all of a sudden we would take that form and input take that form and input police information. Miss Police would be serving coffee in the common grounds by next Sunday. That's what we would do, right? That's what we would do, right? Give it to me. Yes, give it to me. Whatever you got, I want that. I'm putting my yes on the table. But does something weird. He makes the conversation awkward. Look what he says. Number 3, he examines the wound. Verse 16. Yes, I want that water. Jesus saith unto her, Go call thy husband and come hither. Can you imagine her countenance? Just changing? She went from a light-hearted conversation. Now things have gotten a little serious. Have you ever done something you thought you got away with, and all of a sudden you realize you didn't get away with it? I don't know if that's anybody in here who's ever done anything like that. You thought you got scot-free. You thought you got scot-free, and all of a sudden you get caught. I remember when I was a kid. Me and my older brother were trying to keep out my younger brother. It's like what brothers do, isn't it? And so we're in the bedroom, and we're against the door, and my younger brother's on the other side is pounding the door. And we have a chair in the room. And we took the chair, we put it on his back, and we slid it against the door, and kind of wedged it in between, kind of like this half wall in the door. We walk away from the door. My brother keeps hitting the door. And he finally hit it hard enough that one of the chair legs went through the door. It's one of those hollow corridors. It was a dark brown hollow corridor. And he put a hole in it. And he put a hole in it about that big around. And we panicked. And I was like, we got to do something. So we pulled the chair out of the door. And we come up with a plan. I come up with a plan. Because I'm the genius. And I got a piece of paper. And I cut it about the same size of that hole. And I got different shades of brown. And I colored wood grain on this piece of paper. And I got that piece of paper. And I taped it over that hole. And it looked good. From a distance, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell from a distance. It looked good. It looked good. It was persuasive. And then, about a week or so later, me and my older brother are sitting at the kitchen counter, eating our cereal for the morning. And we look up on the refrigerator, and under a magnet is that piece of paper. We were busted. We were busted. I lost my appetite. I didn't want to eat breakfast no more. I didn't want to eat breakfast no more. I know we had been found out. I know we had been found out. It's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. And I imagine this is how this woman feels. She had been through some stuff, and all of a sudden now he's saying, "Can I just say this? Can I just say this? That everybody in here, we live in a broken world, and nobody gets out of this world without being affected by some kind of sin or brokenness." We've all been touched with sin and we all experienced significant wounding. Sometimes self-inflicted wounding, sometimes the wounding, sometimes the wounding of other people acted upon us. And because of that, we carry around shame and guilt. And some of us build emotional walls because we're afraid of getting wounded again. And so we have this burden on us. And this is something this woman is dealing with at this moment. She's being called out about it. We have this one area of our life that we don't want anybody to know about. Constantine was a Roman emperor. The first Christian Roman emperor. By force, he made others become Christian too. Not a great evangelistic that's how he did it. He forced you to become a Christian. Now he would baptize all of his soldiers when they were being baptized. When they were being baptized, would hold their sword out of the water, symbolizing God can have all of me, but this is mine. And I feel like that's how some of us are. God, you can have all of me, but this right here is mine. This 1%, this is this is my thing. And I think everybody has that's something that they're still holding on to, coming up in their life. And here's the difference between a scar and a wound. You can touch a scar without pain, but when you touch a wound, there's pain. And what Jesus is doing right now is he's trying to touch the deepest wound of this woman's heart. He's trying to get her ready to receive the living water that he had just offered her. Look at the line of argument. Look what he's saying. He says, I want that stream of living water you're offering. Jesus says, great. Jesus says, great. The path to get it is to go get your husband. Can you imagine a woman's face as she says, Sir, I don't have a husband. And then Jesus drops the truth bomb right in her lap. You said right. You've had 5 husbands. And the man you're living with right now isn't even your husband. Why would Jesus? She was already saying yes. Why would she bring this? Why would he have this awkward conversation right now? Why? Here's why. God comes after us not in our goodness, but in our brokenness. Where God is going to come after you is not in how good you are, but how you don't have it all together. In our politically correct world, everybody would read this. That's unfair for him to say. Here's the thing: he's only speaking truth. And we've come to a place in our world that believes truth is some kind of judgment. I work out at Planet Fitness every now and then. You know what they don't have at Planet Fitness? A scale. You know why? Because their motto is we are a judgment-free zone. And so in their estimation of things, judgmental. You know what a scale tells you the truth. A scale tells you the truth about yourself. If I step on that scale, and I see more numbers on that scale than it's in my bank account, we have problems. All right, that scale is only revealing to me what the problem is. It's telling me the facts about myself. Would you agree? Right? And so what God does, when I step on a scale, and I see that number, it motivates me. I said, well, I need to do something about that. I need to do some changing. I need to change my habits. I need to change my habits. So the truth of the scale puts action into me. And so God in His Word, this is what Jesus is doing. He's saying some hard things. He's saying some hard truths. He's saying some truthful things. But the reason why He's doing that is because the most loving thing you can do to somebody is tell them the truth. We have come to the realization and skew things that we believe that withholding truth is not love. Withholding truth is hate. If you don't tell somebody what is true, you don't love them. You're hating them. You don't love them. You're hating them. To tell them the truth is to love them even when it hurts. What Jesus is doing is He exposes the sin in her life so that she sees the need for a change. Because this is a habitual behavior in her life. She's got 5 ex-husbands. She's got 5 ex-husbands. Even her husband. This is something she's been trying to do to satisfy the thirst of her soul. And he's pinpointing and says, lady, you've got a problem. And I want to help you. And so you must understand it is in our sin that He meets us, not in our achievements. The gospel has never been, Jesus found me at my best. Anybody's testimony in here, Jesus found me at my best? No, the testimony usually is. Jesus found me at my most broken. Jesus found me at my most broken. Jesus found me when I was in my greatest need. Jesus found me when I was in my most messed up. Jesus found me at the end of my rope. That's when Jesus encounters you. Why? Because that's when you get to the place where you see a need for Him. And so she didn't quite see the need yet. You see what I'm saying? And so he's saying to her, "Go get your husband. I don't have a husband. That's right. I don't have a husband. That's right. You've had 5 husbands. Not even your husband now. All of a sudden, she's realizing. She's realizing, ooh, I'm in trouble. I'm broken. I've got a problem. There's 2 great revelations. The revelation of God and the revelation of God and the revelation of ourselves. Now here's the thing. You will never really truly see yourself until you truly see God. And when you see God, in all of His glory, and all of His pureness, and all of His perfection, when you see God, when you see yourself against God, you'll be appalled at what you see in yourself. When you see God the way He is, and then you look at yourself, it'll make you want to do something. It'll make you want to do something about it. It'll make you want to change. So the gospel is not God found me at my best. The gospel is God found me at my worst. Jesus wants for you to have streams of living water bursting forth and come out of the deepest part of your life. That is the offer. That is the offer. That is what He's come to offer you. And so there's going to be a reaction to that. Because He's got to touch some wounds. He's going to have to touch some wounds. And our reaction to our wounds being touched is that we're going to redirect, we're going to react, or we're going to retaliate. I had a dog that hurt its leg recently, and I was just trying to pick her up. And when I picked her up, I hurt her leg a little bit. And she reached back and she bit my arm. Now, she didn't bite it hard enough to draw blood, but she bit it enough to let me know that hurt. And sometimes when you get a wound touch, you kind of retaliate a little bit. Look what this woman does. This woman uses the redirect. He touches the wound, and then she says, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet." And then she starts using this highly controversial theological conversation of the day to try to get him off the trail of her behaviors. No, our people say it's this mountain. Your people say it's this mountain. So which mountain is the best mountain? You see what she's doing? I don't want to talk about this no more. I don't want to talk about this no more. Let's talk about something else. She's redirecting the conversation. Let's talk about something different. I've been in Baptist circles most of my life. And one thing Baptists like to do is eat. We love potlucks. I used to go to revival meetings and everything else. And we'd have buffets of food. Let me tell you. So much good food. And then after that, you would see the world's largest man get up there and preach. And here's the thing. He would get up there and he'd preach about all kind of hot button topics of the day. He talked about promiscuity. He talked about the King James Bible. He talked about how temporary music is the devil. He would talk about all these things. But I've never seen a big man like that talk about moderation or gluttony. Why? It's the redirect. I'm going to talk about something that's not about me. I shared the gospel with a young man not long ago, and I basically asked him a question. Yes, I believe there is a God. I said, okay, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus? You know what his response was? Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls are about this, and there's all these other manuscripts that aren't included in the Bible, and if you know this about this person, that's not the question. You know what he was doing? The redirect. Let's talk about something else. And so Jesus doesn't get disturbed by it. Because here's the reality. Doesn't the doctor have to touch the wound to heal it? And so he don't get scared. And then he takes time to explain true worship. He takes some time to talk Verses 21 through 26 take a whole change of events. Jesus hears her question and basically says, yeah, I hear what you're saying. She's kind of confused about the mountains. See, the Samaritans, let me give you a little background about Samaritan people. The Samaritans would worship all kinds of gods, not just Yahweh God. They worship all kinds of gods. But they would worship the one true God too, because they didn't want to leave him out just in case. And they believed they were taught that Abraham was willing to sacrifice Isaac on Mount Gerizim. And they taught that Melchizedek had appeared to Abraham. And they believed that it was on this mountain, where Moses had erected to make a sacrifice to God. And they were taught in their upbringing that Mount Gerizim was the most sacred place in the world. Mount Gerizim was right there in the middle of Samaria. And so they believed that their mountain was the most holy mountain, and they believed wrong. Because all that happened on Mount Moriah. But Jesus didn't go through all that. Jesus didn't go through all that. He didn't try to explain all that. He didn't try to explain all that. Here's one thing I've learned. I've never argued anyone to Jesus. Have you ever argued anyone to Jesus? I have argued with people. I have argued with people and won the argument and lost the person. That is not a win. That is not a win. Jesus was not here to debate with her. Jesus was not here to debate with her. But if you look at the real heart of what she's asking, it's this. She sees the brokenness. She sees the brokenness. She sees her sin. She sees her sin. He's put his finger on the wound in her life. She realizes she's wrong. And the question she's basically asking, even though it is a bit of a redirect, she's saying basically, all I knew to do when I sin is to go make a sacrifice. And I don't know which mountain to go sacrifice on. Is it this mountain or this mountain? Where can I find God? That's the question she's basically asking. I want to get right. So where do I need to go to find God? And Jesus responds in love. And he says, you know what? The argument's over. It don't matter which mountain you go to. Because now is the time when true worshipers will find God in truth. In other words, you can worship him anywhere, anytime. He is approachable. He's not confined to this mountain. He's not confined to this mountain. He's not confined to these people. He's not confined to these people. He is available to you right now. Well, that's good news. And John, if you read John, there's a bunch of I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. I am the Son of Man. All these I am statements in which he's identifying himself as God. And verse 26 is the very first I am statement in all of the Gospel of John. And who gets it? A three-time loser. A woman, a Samaritan woman, and a Samaritan woman with a reputation. Because in that culture, women didn't have a whole lot of preference. But Jesus gives the first I am statement. She says, when the Messiah comes, when he will sort all things out. And in verse 26, Jesus saith I that speak unto them am He. I am He. The first I am statement wasn't given in the previous chapter when he was talking to Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a religious ruler of the day. Jesus didn't give an I am statement to Nicodemus. Jesus didn't give an I am statement to his 12 disciples, and everything to follow him. The very first person to get an I am statement in the Gospel of John is this woman. You know why? Here's why I believe this is. Because Jesus wanted to love the world, not just in theory, you can see it right here. He comes close to those who are far from Him. And I can imagine this woman saying, "What about my past?" And He says, "I told you about your past. I told you about everything about you. The offer's still on the table. The offer's still on the table. What about my present? Because think about this. Did she go move out of home dude's house yet? Did she go pack her bags yet? Did she break up with the guy? Offer's still on the table, isn't it? You want living water? I give it to you right now. Don't you know what I've done? Yeah. Don't you know what I've done? Yeah. I've told you what you've done. Offer's still on the table. She said, I can't believe it. We sometimes think that we have to go clean up first before we invite Jesus in. That's wrong. Jesus says, I want you like you are. See, He loves you enough to bring you in like you are, but He loves you too much to leave you like you are. And so there is the expectation. He wants you right now, but He wants you right now. He didn't say, okay, go move out of your dude's house. Go get you another rental. Go get you a job. Go get a steady income. After you do all that, let's come back. Let's talk about this. He says, hey, you want living water? I'll give it to you right now. I've got 5 husbands. I know you have 5 husbands. I know you have 5 husbands. I'm living with a guy right now. I know you want living water. You want living water? Water that will satisfy the thirst of your soul. You can have it right now. You want it? You know what she does? You know what her reaction is? Listen. She gets up. In verse 28, the woman then left her water pot and went her way into the city and said to the man, come see a man which told me all things, that ever I did. Is Christ. You know what she does? See that water pot is a symbol of her shame, because this well, Jacob's well, over half a mile outside of her city. There were other wells that were closer to her village. And there are better times of day to go to the well other than middle of the day, noon in a desert. Who wants to carry a pot of water in the middle of the day in a desert? in a
You know
desert.
why she did this?
She
You
went
know
to
why
the
she did
furthest
this?
well
She went to
at
the
the hottest
furthest
part of the
well
day
at the
because
hottest
she
part
didn't want
of
to
the
be
day
seen
because
by
she didn't want to
nobody.
be
Her
seen
sin
by
had
nobody.
made her
Her
an
sin had
outcast.
made her an outcast.
Her sin has
ostracized her and kept her out of public eye for so long,
and now for the first time ever, she has met a man who's not afraid of the skeletons or the ugliness of her present. It says to her, I'll take you like you are. I'll give you living water. I'll give you living water to satisfy the thirst of your soul. You don't have to keep jumping around from man to man to man. I will satisfy the thirst of your soul if you just partake of what I have to offer. For the first time ever, for the first time was filled and satisfied. She didn't need a water pot no more. She didn't need a water pot no more. She walked away with a whole well. And she went back to the village and said, you need to come see everything about me. And still loved me all the same. Still loved me all the same. Isn't that what Romans chapter 5 verse 8 tells us that God commended us while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Christ died the gospel. Isn't that even at your worst, even at your worst, and loved you, even when you didn't love Him, even when there wasn't anything lovable about you, He still loved you. That is the gospel. That is the gospel. And she goes and tells people, you've got to come see this man. She stood up and walked away without the water pot because she had the whole well. See Jesus. If you look at the very beginning, it just started with a conversation about water. Give me something to drink. You don't have a bucket. You're right. Let me tell you about some living water. And he took the lesser, lower, and made it into the heavier, higher. Then he spent some time talking with her. Hearing her, listening to her, understanding her concerns, and says, you know what? Anything I know about you doesn't scare me away. I love you. Here's some living water. You want it? All you gotta do is take it.